Good evening, everyone. I think that we have a couple folks on the on the phone. I couldn't think of the word. I'm sorry. But today is February 9th, Monday, February 9th, 6:30. And we are getting ready to kick off the Cunnigham Township Board meeting. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Wu. Here. Trustee Evans.
Here.
Trustee Hersey.
Here.
Trustee Bishop.
Here.
Trustee Wilkin. Here. Trustee Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Supervisor Chenoweth.
Present.
Assessor Awana. Here. Thank you.
Awesome. Quorum is present. Thank you all. We will now move on to the approval of the minutes. So the minutes for November 17th, 2025 meeting minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All right, moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Grace. No discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Yeah. All right, the ayes have it. I should have given them more time. I'm sorry, y'all. All right. Are there any proposed additions or changes to the agenda? Awesome. Seeing none, we will now move to public participation. The floor is now open for members of the public. If you have would like to speak, you have 5 minutes to come to the mic. State your name, city. And seeing no one, we will now move on. Public participation is closed. All right, we'll move to committee to verify bills. I recognize Supervisor Chenoweth to verify the bills. The floor is yours.
Thank you and good evening.
You.
Looking forward to it getting just a little bit warmer this week. So before you have the bills. Let me just pull up. So just a reminder, we're reporting on December bills in February. So we'll always beat that. So the town fund is $44,405.01. General assistance fund is $361,313.35. The total expenditures for December is $405,718.36. You have the full bills in your packet itemized, and I'm happy to answer any questions before I go on to the supervisor's memo. Yes, supervisor memo? Okay, so
We need a motion and an approval. I move to approve payment of the bills.
Second.
Seconded by Mary Alice. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sure, so if you open up the supervisor's memo, which starts on page, just to help you out, page 21 of your packet. The first thing that we wanted to point out, I kind of do a highlight each month, is I want to talk about alternative response. We are currently funded through Urbana's HHI grant for our CARES team. So a portion of our CARES team is funded through that, and a portion through ESG, which is HUD dollars through the state of Illinois, funds our street outreach. We are coming to a close on countywide street outreach funding because our ESG funds are almost expended. And I do want to mention that Champaign's Rights and Equity and Engagement team has hired Dr. Parnell, who I'll be meeting with, and our team will be meeting with. And she has assembled a group of folks who are doing alternative response in Champaign. So because there is basically a full and much larger, larger than our team, and we really have only had a FTE and a half to work the county. I think the benefit of that is we were able to basically identify or quantify the need throughout the county. We will still work cooperatively with them. We will still respond to until our ESG funding is done, we'll still respond throughout the county, but we're really looking forward to refocus our attention on Urbana exclusively, as those positions will be funded through Urbana dollars. So I think we're just seeing a greater need at Lincoln Square, on Filet Road, in the Boneyard. We certainly, Crystal Lake Park, we go to all of those places pretty much every single day, but our time is limited in terms of engagement because we're spread so thin. So I just wanted to let folks know that we're kind of pivoting, and I'm not sure this next year, especially with Champaign having a kind of an engagement team, I think we would prefer to focus on Urbana in our future grants. So we have been doing that work through the HHI grant. I linked to alternative response resources and model programs tracker. We've been keeping that up to date for about 2.5 years now. We've had multiple kind of study sessions. We did a presentation through the social work school at the IMC and with our social work team about alternative response. We're part of the alternative response task force. I also want to mention that we've been working closely with Dignity Best Practices. They had invited us to apply for a field mediation community of practice. Actually, they had invited Dispute Resolution Institute, and they had reached out to us as a partner. Dispute Resolution Institute is dissolving many of their programs right now, and so we were happy to support them in a submission, but not in a position to submit ourselves. They did not end up submitting, but Dignity Best Practices reached out to us and asked us to engage in the field mediation community of practice, and so we currently participate in that. We recently learned from Jaron Dorsey of Evanston's care team. I don't know, Mayor, if you'd spoken with him. He's really excellent, really brilliant. I think he could be a really excellent trainer in Urbana, but he gave an hour-long presentation, and we had a question answer specifically around working with neurodivergent individuals in the field. That was the kind of topic of this quarter. I have linked some key resources, a nationwide map of community responder programs that LEAP continues to put together. I know the city is engaged with LEAP. Madison Cares Response Dashboard. I really encourage you to look at both of these dashboards, and we're interested with our CARES team and our new IT professional. Were you to approve it tonight, for us to start working towards a dashboard that is on our website that's constantly updating. And yes, and then I just kind of wanted to share that has been a big focus of ours in terms of we started our budget process. We're about to do our performance evaluations with employees, and I usually do kind of restructuring in the spring as we apply for grants. So I am right now looking for grants to continue our CARES team past December. It's currently funded through December by the HHI grant. And, so we're looking at ICJA grants. We're talking with Dignity Best Practices, and they actually give us a list of all of the training spaces and conferences in this area. It's about 25 that touch alternative response, and I would say about 5 are pretty closely relevant to our community. So I'd love to, we're kind of trying to figure out where do we want to invest in some professional development. The second section is actually a visual of what I presented last time. Same data, because we're still we're producing the outcomes data. So we're going to update intake data we're now at about 140 people served. We were at 104 when I did this before. And then I'll prepare the outcome data that shows kind of employment and housing outcomes, especially with us launching case management. I will say we've had 2 healthcare events at the Armory. One is with Champaign Healthcare Partnership, which is a, what do they call it? Federal qualified clinic. I can't remember all these acronyms. And then the second was with Promise Healthcare, similarly a federal qualified clinic. Both receive special funds to support folks who may be uninsured or underinsured. So we had about 15 guys both times meet with folks to talk through healthcare needs, and they're very excited about that. We've had multiple case management instances. So we've had 3 so far where we've had 3 mornings of case management, starting to get folks into coordinated entry. There are a number of permanent supportive housing vouchers available through RPC. And so we're trying to fast track connecting the 11 people who are on SSDI to those permanent supportive housing vouchers. So that will be important. And as you can see in this infographic, 61% of the men listed disabling condition. I'm not going to go over the stats I went over last time, but I think these visuals are really helpful, and you should feel free if you want to share them with folks. We'll also be sharing them through our social media. And I've linked to download them so you can actually link and share and look at them. Just a couple of things I'll point out, because this is a 16-page memo. I'm looking to figure out how I can kind of reduce and condense going forward. I've just continued to add as we grow programs. So Careers in Motion, that would be basically under Careers in Motion. I want to mention our trainings are complete. We've identified our host sites, and we're essentially looking to do placements. Our host sites, we started the host sites this week, and the Housing Authority has announced that they're opening a $1.5 million funding initiative for homeless services in 2026. So we will be applying for that. We're also applying for $143,000 in ICJIA funds, which is the maximum for any organization in our region to support this Careers in Motion program extension. Those two things go together because the workforce development housing has been very successful, and we want to make sure that anyone who's in our Careers in Motion program is not literally unhoused outside. Makes it very difficult for them to participate in workforce development. We have 8 folks who are housed in that program right now, and we have a total number of 12 folks, I believe, 14 folks in the program. Next, I just want to point out the CARES team, the calls for service, which were a high of a little over 2,000 in October. We're coming down closer to something a little bit more reasonable. It's 1528 in January. Did want to show that applications for rental assistance are up. 56 were processed in December. We had 65 last month. That is really high for the spring. We usually don't see. We see a little bit of a dip in the spring, and so I'm not really sure. That scares me. We usually kind of, it's real difficult in the summer months, tend to be our high months, but that's pretty high. We will expend all of our CDBG, Housing Authority, and our levy, so we're on track to spend it all on rental assistance. Utility assistance, LIHEAP did open up. We did serve 23 households, and that's basically folks who weren't able to access LIHEAP. And you'll see it's a small number, and so my guess is that those were smaller bills, maybe more water bills than heat. Next, I'll just go to street outreach. You will see the number of people we are encountering on the street is low, much lower than it has been. So in November, we had 86 individuals we were working with. In January, it was only 37. That's because the majority of those we found on the street are in the Armory shelter. 37 folks is still too high, and we are looking at the point-in-time count numbers. I think they said that they identified a number that I think is larger than I would expect, but that there's duplication. So I'll get that number for you. I've asked them to dedupe before we really start talking about it. We were able to move folks who were unsheltered outside directly into housing, into shelter that night, partnering with my partner across Wright Street, Charlene Murray, who is our new township supervisor. Congratulations. So we worked very closely on the point-in-town count night. We had women go into strides. We had several women come out and go into the hotel who were able to be stable in a hotel. And then we had 3 men that we brought into the Armory that evening. So really helped to have shelter that we could immediately bring people into rather than just counting them and leaving them outside on a cold night. Don't want to do that. Next, we'll go on to, I'm just going to the yellow bits. Our Bridge Dome housing team, we had 10 households representing 20 individuals in our hotel shelter in December. We had 8 households representing 9 individuals in the hotel with other funding sources. We do have some openings in rapid rehousing. I just met with that team today. They screened 6. We get all of our referrals from coordinated entry, which is the requirement of our grant. We got 6 referrals. We were able to take 3 in, and so I believe we have 1 opening left, but I was determining that with the team. So hopefully we will fill up that program completely because we had several exits at the end of their 12-month stay. Transitional housing for Urbana families, you'll see we have an average stay in the shelter of about 3.75 months, which is pretty good. We're happy with that number. It's not listed here, but our success rate is running around 92%. We're required to have an 80% success rate, so feeling really good about that. Last month, we served over 13 families with children. So 7 were in our apartments and 6 were in the family shelter that's expanded in market rate housing that's housing authority funded. So part of the question going into next year that we're looking at is, do we double our family shelter? Because it seems like our wait list was really long for a while, and we really have not been able to get that wait list down until we doubled the size of our shelter. So I anticipate we'll be asking for workforce development and family shelter funds from the Housing Authority Move to Work program because I think we would like to maintain that kind of capacity. Just for the record, a pretty big jump for us, just in terms of how many people we are sheltering. We tripled the size of our sheltering in November, December, January. On our prioritized wait list, this is fiscal year 26 when the wait list was really stalled out, and our average is 3 months of waiting on the wait list. That is not anything I'm proud of. I think the Housing Authority money definitely helped that, but the folks on our priority list are literally homeless families or families going in and out of literal homelessness. So that means waiting 3 months in a car, in an abandoned building like that. I don't want to see that. So I think we really, in the past, our wait time has been 30 days, sometimes 2 weeks. And so I really want to get us down to the point where we're not seeing a long wait list for family shelter. Again, that's the average for fiscal year 26. I want to note that angel donor funds were raining on us in January. People have been very generous, and we received $22,257. And then we received a number of big contributions in December as well. Almost all of that has gone to our public winter emergency shelter. I will say our help desk is up, so you can see that it's the highest number of folks who have been served by our help desk, and that's because as you can see in December, we expanded our hours. We served 17 folks, and in January we served 20. This is usually navigating with somebody for, 1.5 hours, so it's quite an intensive process. We just hired 4 digital navigators. We're in the process of having 4 new digital navigators trained by the U of I who would help desk after graduation. Sharing table, hunger relief because of the SNAP work requirement and just other kind of the cost of bills. We did see a 30% increase in the number of households served. And you can see we helped a total of 189 individuals, 20 adults and 69 children. With the sharing table. Solidarity Gardens, we have started applications for the free garden program. Anyone who is SNAP, Medicaid, or an immigrant gardener is encouraged to apply. And then I mentioned the events. I'll just jump to staff development. It's our last page. We had a number of trainings. last month. And coming up, we are going to be learning about street medicine from Dr. Alan Crandall, who is with the Denver Coalition for the Homeless. He was also the head of psych at Christie Clinic, and he's retired. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. And then we are doing a series of trainings on low barrier and emergency shelter. So, and everyone in the office has to annually complete sexual harassment and implicit bias training by the end of March. So you can see all of our staff certifications on our website. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the supervisor's memo.
Thank you, Supervisor. Grace, go for it. Any questions?
Thank you. I think mostly two kind of related ones. With the families who are unsheltered on the wait list, are those the same families in the hotel program? Like 7 on the wait list and 6 in the hotels, does that overlap? Or that's 7 families who were on the street, or are they in the hotel program?
So let me just make sure I'm looking at it correctly. Let me go to that section. Families experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity. 4 referrals received in January. I'm trying to find, let's see, what page are you on in the supervisor's memo? It should be lower right-hand number.
I'm trying to find it again now, sorry.
No, it's fine. Is this maybe under housing navigation?
Yeah, housing navigation, page 10.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I was looking at something else, but 7 families with children, and then transitional housing, page, no, just kidding. A prioritized wait list, page 12, where we have 7 families unsheltered.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I didn't see the hotel program included there, and was hoping that some of those people on the wait list are in hotels.
Yeah, so we have, this was December, we case managed 12 literally homeless families on the prioritized wait list. December is also I would have to look at a by list name, because I know that we currently don't have 7 on our wait list. The last I checked in with our team, we had about 3 families on our wait list who were literally homeless. But at the time, we had, we were case managing 12 literally homeless families, and we were working on moving them into housing. We had a number of openings in our SAS program. We also had several openings. I think we ended up with 6 families with the Housing Authority money housed. We currently actually have an opening in SAS, which is our units, our shelter and services group, and we'll be intaking families. So I would have to do more of like a point in time, like how many families. But my understanding is right now, or within the last 7 days, we were looking at 3 HUD definition homeless families. How many were in a domestic violence shelter versus on the street is unknown. I'm not aware of any family we're working with who is street homeless. And during this time, our goal has been to not have, during the winter months, if anyone was street or car or abandoned building homeless during the winter, we moved them into shelter. So a lot of the folks who are on our wait list, it's like they're running out of time at Courage Connection, or they're self-pay in a hotel, and then basically when they're close to running out of money, they're considered within 14 days of not having housing, and then they get bumped up on our priority.
Thank you, and definitely appreciate what you're doing to meet that very important goal.
Yep.
My other question was related to that. I think last meeting, we were talking about following up with RPC family shelters supposed to be opening. I didn't know if you had an update on that.
So they opened in November as a congregate shelter in very close to their Neal Street intake location near downtown Champaign. I think they struggled for months to have families engage with that model of shelter. There weren't very many families engaging. They were not necessarily holding staff there if they weren't engaged. So from a budget perspective, and, you know, I think they could speak to that. They're an HHI recipient from Urbana. But there were a number of concerns raised at CSPH, and they expanded their intake hours and they added transportation. And what they reported to us at the CSPH meeting last week is that there is anywhere between 0 and 3 families that use that on a given night. But I didn't understand necessarily the time frame they were speaking of, but there are definitely days when there's no usage. I would say, generally speaking, because of the Housing Authority money and our program and some of the work our PC has done and Housing Authority has done to move folks into some of the subsidized housing that's opening up, we have, you know, we had a crisis on our hands with families, and it was definitely ameliorated by those things. So like I said, I'm not aware of any family that qualifies for our program, which is a family with a kid at Crisis Nursery or in Urbana schools. I'm not aware of any family, and we have not allowed folks to be unsheltered during this time. So either that we've referred them to the family shelter for immediate, or we have housed them in a hotel, or we've been able to intake them into our program. I do know that there is a gap with Unit 4 schools children, and that is the gap that we see most often. And that's a gap that we are not in a position to fill without funding from that entity.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Supervisor, I have one quick question.
Sure.
Or,
Of course.
I forgot what my one quick question was. I'm so sorry. Careers in Motion. Did you guys? I'm almost positive. I thought Mrs. Miller, gave a number. Did you guys have a designated like amount, a number of folks that you wanted to have signed up by a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, so we have 14 folks in the program. We are capped at 20. So each quarter we will take in however many participants between 20 and the amount that we have. So with the ICJA money, if we're awarded, that will actually allow us to raise that cap past the 20. But right now we're at 20 just based on case management load. Excuse me, that's our limit. So we are looking to intake 6 Urbana residents who are out of work and have barriers to work into our program. We're taking applications right now. We will close that application process at the end of February. And I am somewhat concerned at how many applications we have compared to the slots.
Okay.
Like, we're seeing quite a bit of interest in that program. I would say the number one interest is with housing. There's a lot of homeless residents really interested in that program because with Housing Authority money, it can come with housing. That said, this next cohort, you know, I might have 1 or 2 slots for housing, and so we're going to be limited in what we can do.
Okay. Thank you.
I am still looking for a financial literacy specialist because the person we had lined up fell through.
I know a guy or two, so.
What's that?
I know a guy or two.
Okay,
as well.
great. So we basically, we're going to do that as a pre-host site set of trainings. Instead, we did other trainings, and so once they're placed at a host site, we want to do a whole 8-week unit on financial literacy. So we still have time, but suggestions are welcome.
Awesome. Mary Alice.
Yes, thank you. I have 2 questions that are related to the report and 2 that aren't. So my first question is if you could expand a little bit on the Champaign team that you were talking about. I'm not familiar with what's going on over there.
My understanding, and it was reported to me at reported at CSPH, but also I did have a sit down with the city of Champaign recently, just around after the anti-camping ordinance. CSPH requested a meeting of executives to have a conversation about kind of how that came about and what we could do to kind of collaborate and communicate better. It's a very productive and very positive conversation. My understanding, which is very limited, is that there is a social worker and 4 full-time staff members specifically assigned to that. And I know that's, I believe, on top of the equity engagement staff that they have hired. They also hired a contractor called Block by Block, which is more about beautification, but I do believe has some engaging people to move them along aspect is the sense that I get. And that is for Campus Town, Midtown, and Downtown.
Are they primarily serving homeless individuals?
Block by Block is not primarily serving homeless individuals, but that is a piece of the equation. The equity engagement staff are engaging homeless individuals. And we were just kind of told what was happening, and there wasn't, how does this fit with street outreach and what is it going to look like? Those conversations were not had.
Okay.
Which is why we really see it as, we are, may no longer be needed in Champaign, which honestly is welcome given capacity issues that we're having and the need in Urbana.
And then my second unrelated question is, I remember you were talking about SOAR and some of the changes going on at the federal government. I was wondering if you had an update on that.
Yeah, so interestingly, they found the SOAR TA Center, which is really a technical assistance support we've been receiving. We haven't received direct dollars, but it's been a very important piece to be able to call folks who are experts who are not SSA because they don't answer the phone. You could be on the phone for 3 hours. So we've had these technical experts through SAMHSA for years, been very helpful. They were defunded and closed, so the state picked it up. And essentially, and perhaps some private foundations. So the SOAR TA Center has continued, and I have staff who trained. They're training this week or next. The SOAR Center is in town, and they're doing 2 days of training with them. So we are excited about that because our new. Our disability and wellness case manager, who came on about a year ago, has just been really doing she's trained in the SOAR process. And as you can see in the supervisor's memo, the number of people we've been able to get to access Social Security disability. I'm just going to look at this because it's quite impressive. Parkland Training is hosting a SOAR training February 10th and 11th. In Urbana. We've helped 8 people with SSA navigation in December alone. By comparison, last year when we didn't have as robust of a support system, we helped 9 in all of fiscal year 25. So we've had 13 awarded SSI fiscal year to date. 20 were awarded last year. That's just in the first. So we're on track to exceed number of awardees. And as you probably know, we do receive the general assistance funding back from the lump sum payment based on the date of determination of disability. Oftentimes we were paying before that date, so the feds set the date, but we do recoup quite a bit of those dollars through that process. So it really behooves us to invest time in helping people, certainly from a financial standpoint, but even more importantly, people who have a disability are no longer expected to live off a $425 check. They can actually have something that's closer to $1,000, which is still under the poverty line, but much more significant. And certainly if they're unhoused, gives them much more opportunity to move into, say, shared housing.
And then I was wondering if you could speak, if you know about the impact of the electricity changes, specifically where they were giving discounts to people who qualified for LIHEAP. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any impact?
We have been referring folks even when LIHEAP wasn't open and was just reducing people's energy bill. My understanding that the reduction is significant. That said, we only really hear from those who are shut off. We don't hear from the folks who are being able to manage their utility bills. So I think that, and bills are going up. So it's like if everything stayed steady, everything was a control, that would be the one thing we could show that was different. And because of the fluctuations in the economy and prices, I don't think that we have a good sense of that. I do think it's a beneficial program. We do refer people to it regularly, but we are still seeing quite a few utility requests. Like before Ameren stopped shutting off utilities, you can look at our history and it's, the utility costs, the utility assistance last year and this year has been very significant. And again, it's only for people shut off who cannot get LIHEAP. So it's like, we're the last resort. So to see that go to skyrocket is really concerning. And then to hear that we might have data centers moving into Danville and Champaign County that will, basically take our clean water and jack our bills and destroy the environment is very concerning. So I was very happy to see that the county was looking at a moratorium on data centers. And if you get a chance to thank county board members, please do, because it's a very important issue.
And I had one other question. No, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
All right. Seeing no further questions, let's get to some new business. All right, a resolution number T 2026-02-004R, resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a recipient agreement with the city of Urbana for daytime and nighttime staffing for public winter emergency shelter. Supervisor Chenoweth.
So I presented on this at length, so I'm just happy to take any questions. It was changed by the city council, you may know who they are, to allow for day and nighttime. That's really important because we will need that nighttime staff support to get to the end of our occupancy permit, May 23rd. We're still fundraising, we're $22,000 short to get to that date, but I feel confident with angel donor funds and other potential pledges that we will be able to stay open nighttime through the occupancy permit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any additional questions? Seeing none. Clerk.
I have a question.
Sharice.
When is the occupancy, when is that up? You said in May?
May 23rd.
May 23rd. So my other question is, so this particular emergency shelter is just going to take us through the spring? You're not going to try to expand it into the summer?
I would need funding and an extended occupancy permit to do that at this location.
Okay. So you presently don't have that. My question was, are you going to try to do that?
Well, I'm pretty tired after trying to build a winter shelter on a shoestring budget. To give you the honest opinion. I am, Charlene, our supervisor of City of Champaign Township, and myself will be presenting at the Metropolitan Intergovernmental Collaborative on Wednesday, where we will be discussing and presenting on emergency shelter, kind of past, present, and future, and talking about some proposals that we have for moving forward, given the size of the population has grown so much in the last few years, not only here, but nationally. And so what we are planning to do is to come back to both town boards / city councils with that same presentation. So we have opportunity to engage around it. We currently have between our two shelters, somewhere between 120 and 140 individuals experiencing homelessness. And in both cases, we do not have the support to continue those shelters. I mean, that is just, I've gotten a lot of support to get to the occupancy permit, but in terms of long-term, and so that, we're really facing a fiscal cliff. And I think everybody's aware of that. We've certainly said it many times. And so we'll be making some proposals, and we'll also be offering kind of cost analyses. What does it cost to be nighttime only? What does it cost to have case management? What does it cost to separate genders? What does that look like? So we have different scenarios we'd like to put forward, but we are certainly not in a position to solve that problem alone. I should say I am not in a position to solve that. Maybe Charlene is smarter than I am and she can solve it but not me. So I look forward to that conversation. I do want to say on that topic, Ms. Hersey, that I One of the things that we are doing is developing a strategic plan with our consultant home-based and homelessness in Champaign County. And a big piece of that is happening right now is an intensive data analysis and comparison with other communities, because the issue is not only we just need to take these 2 shelters and give them more money. I think both of us agree that that's actually not the right solution, but that it is to decide how do we have a truly low barrier point of entry that is connected to a crisis management that is needed for low barrier, because there's a lot of significant mental health issues going on in the streets. And then how do we make that stay in low barrier shelter very brief and move through the continuum into emergency, transitional, and permanent housing. And so we control only a few cars on that train, but we would like to really talk about what are the different points of reform. So certainly more funding is going to be needed for low barrier shelter, to have even one low barrier shelter. But if that one low barrier shelter is Strides, there is way too many people on the street, as we saw before we opened the Armory. I don't know if you've gone by Strides, but there's no one outside anymore, and there's very few people, if no one, in the viaduct. And so the solution is not to legislate people out of the streets or to deny them housing, which is what was happening, but is actually to give them beds to sleep in a warm space, which is what Cunnigham Township did. So hopefully we have proven that to the community, because ideology is very powerful, and there were a lot of stories about what was going to happen. Build it and they will come. They'll never be housed. They don't want to go to shelter. All of that is, in my opinion, BS. And we've shown with our shelter that if we provide shelter, the vast majority of people will come in. And those who are still outside are experiencing extreme complex mental health issues. Like, they believe the world is ending and they might as well just sleep outside, or they're looking to live underground. Or, I mean, I will tell you stories because I've interacted with folks. They're not in a position they're not capable of being in a congregate sheltered space. That is for the very few people who are now outside. So I think we have to get really real. Like, there's no more closing our eyes and saying, well, if we just don't provide shelter, they'll go away. Or we'll legislate and fine them $750 for being outside, and maybe they'll go away. I think we have finally, thanks to advocacy by CSPH and the homeless service providers, have made clear that we actually have to have a sober and realistic analysis of what we are facing, and that we have to invest in the significant point of entry, and then we have to move people along. We have to divert them, reunification, and we have to help them move into better housing than a cot in a room with a whole bunch of other people. But without that one thing, people will die. And they did last winter, and they didn't this winter. So that is what we'll be talking about Wednesday. And I look forward to talking with you more about it and having Charlene and I present to you as the 2 township supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. And shout out to Ms. Charlene here in the audience. Thank you for joining us. James, sorry.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move resolution number T 2026-02-004R, resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a recipient agreement with the City of Urbana for daytime and nighttime staffing for a public winter emergency shelter.
Second.
Motion made by James, seconded by Grace. Any additional questions? Grace.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate the work with the winter shelter and expanding it to meet the needs. Don't love that there's still a $222,000 gap for operating fully through May, and find that unfortunate that the rest of council didn't want to increase that, but I do hope that we can stay in touch, and if that there is a need that you're not able to scramble together from other municipalities and people donating out of the kindness of their heart and their own funds, that we can be in touch and see if we can meet that gap with available funds that taxpayers have already paid. And I know that it's not for your lack of trying, because you've told us about this every year that I've been involved, of planning ahead for winter stuff so we don't piecemeal us together. And yeah, you've said that every year, and I agree with it and try and commit to it every year. And then summer rolls around when we're doing the budget, and it seems like it doesn't always find that place in there. So just want to reiterate that for all of us in the summer when it's warm and we forget what it feels like in these freezing times, to remember to plan ahead so that we can hopefully not have to scramble winters again so that people aren't freezing. So, and thanks for the work you do and keeping this open.
Just a thank you for that, Grace. Just a point of clarification, we're only $22,000, not, I think you said 222. We're only $22,000 away from getting to what we need. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Is that less than what you presented at the last meeting? I thought it was in the 200,000 gap. Papers
That
you gave
was
us
to
last
get to
month.
the end of June. That was able to get to the end of June, and I had several very large donations come in since then. So between those two, I think that last 100,000 was to get to the end of June. Right now, we're not guaranteed the end of June. I just offered it as a scenario. Our occupancy permit ends May 23rd, so I would certainly need that to be extended.
So, well, glad to hear that gap is much smaller. Thank you.
James.
As a further piece of clarification, I think council acted quickly to respond to the question that you had put in front of us right away. And I think everybody on council was open to the possibility of supporting it with more money if you came back and said, this is what I needed because the other activities you were doing failed. So just to be clear, it wasn't that council didn't want to do more, it was council wanted to respond to your immediate request and would consider more if you found that you needed that.
Awesome. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Evans,
Yes.
Trustee Hersey,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
Yes.
Trustee Wilkin,
Yes.
Trustee Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and that passes. All right, next, we have resolution number T 2026-02-005R, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a service agreement with, what is that? Mavid, what is that? Mavid?
It's Mavidia.
Mavidia, Jesus, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Mavidia
I
for
had the
IT
same problem.
services and consulting. Supervisor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so you approved a healthy budget for IT upgrades. We are at 25 staff. We have been doing IT internally. We have a very tiny IT contract with a local provider who just, basically helps us, provides the minimum as we are paying. We put out an RFP, including that current IT provider, with a series of requests. There were 8 organizations that were interested. We reviewed their applications. We talked with 3 of the applicants, and we selected Mavidia. Mavidia works significantly, although they are based in Bloomington, they work significantly with nonprofit and government entities, they work with the Housing Authority, they understand housing-related issues, they're generous, thoughtful, thorough, and come with several very strong local recommendations. We are interested in moving forward with them as IT service providers. There is one piece of the RFP that they could not do. They will not customize our case management software, but they will support us in finding a person who could. So they'll basically provide a full suite of services. They're going to help us do a migration from Google to Microsoft. They're going to help us select HR software. They're going to advise us on how to upgrade our accounting processes to better dovetail with our grants management. Those may be separate, specific specialty projects, they will give us all the advice for free, but when it comes to actually doing some of the footwork around those, then we can decide to engage them. But essentially, for the contract that's before you, it is to support 25 seats. We have exactly 25 seats. We have a lot of onboarding and offboarding, and it is a significant contract, but the options are for me to hire a person in-house at a level that is greater than what this contract would be, or to go outside, because right now we're moving $500,000 in contract money, each month. And I only have 2 administrative staff members. So the administrative staff member who supports IT is needed entirely on the finance side, and is not necessarily an IT consultant, although she she has plenty of IT chops. So that we had chose instead to outsource. The only change in the contract is that I negotiated a 2-year contract instead of a 3-year contract after I put this in the packet. So there will be one change to the contract that I'm asking for. It's in our best interest that they will give us a free setup. It's about a $3,100 value, and then we're only locked in for 2 years instead of 3.
All right. Thank you. I will entertain a motion. James?
I've got some questions first.
Go for it.
That's okay.
Yep, go for
And I
it.
do want to say I appreciate Supervisor Chenoweth talking with me a bit about this beforehand. So, and one of the things I asked for was the summary that she just gave about how the process worked. One thing I did want to check in the process, did we talk to other municipal governments that this provider supports as a reference?
No, I did look over their references with regard to nonprofits. We're probably more like their nonprofit and housing authority clients than government clients. I did speak to 2 different organizations that have used them. They are both in the business sector in this community. There were local folks who I knew who had used them, and they came highly regarded by those individuals. And then we had 2 different long conversations where we grilled them, basically, asked a number of questions. I used to run an IT company. I know what questions to ask. And so I felt like I vetted them thoroughly in that way.
Right, and then I thank you for sharing a lot on the process, because it was an open process. That's important, because this is, even at 2 years, this is $80,000 of commitment. So more about the details about their particular contract, and I'll warn everybody, there's ice cream running on this, whether I ask the right questions or not. So I did read about their 24-hour service. One thing I didn't see is what kind of service level agreement they offer, as far as you can call them 24 hours a day, how quickly they respond. Do they have a service level commitment regarding that? I didn't find it in the...
My understanding, so what they explained is that they have 24/7 on-call service, not that you leave a voicemail and they get back to you, but they will actually answer the phone. They will have remote access to and much of our work will be in the cloud. So although they're in Bloomington, we don't have a lot of 24/7 needs. We haven't had a lot of after hours needs. But they can both come in person, but most likely they will be able to do what they need remotely. And our current IT person, I don't remember the last time he physically stepped into the office. I believe it's been 4 years. So he's been able to do everything remotely, because if somebody does need to go and turn off the server and turn it back on, I live 2 blocks from Township. So what we've been doing is I can take care of something like that.
All right, because I did have a question about the after-hours service. Looks like it's billed at $250 an hour, but you've said that's a very low likelihood that we would need to take advantage of that and pay them $500 to drive back and forth between here and Bloomington.
They also clarified for me, I'm sorry, that an emergency is really something that does, if it's something that has to be done and cannot wait till the next day, they will not be billing us those hours. So if it's an after-hours situation where we are asking for services that could wait, and we are demanding them, then they would be charging us $250. I understand the language is a little bit different. I understand that we might be held to a different standard, but that's what they clarified, and that is kind of what I checked with other folks who have used them, that has been their practice.
Okay, and then there was a lot of detail about working with our insurance, our cyber security insurance. Are we comfortable with the fact that the line of who does what in that relationship is going to be managed well with this company? Because they say they're going to do some part of, like if we had a ransomware event, they're going to do like some of the initial parts of it, but they would hand off.
Yes. So
real-
I asked that question with them, so I scream.
They're one of the accounts, okay.
And so I asked them this question, and they said they will cover everything outside of our policy. And they've indicated, and our policy through TORMA, it fits the criteria required in this contract already.
And so they also are going to be doing backups for us.
Correct.
And so I didn't find anything in there about if we decide at some point we're separating from them, you know, how much backup data are they going to be retaining, and how do we get it if we at some point decide we're not going to work with them?
So I asked about backups. The first is they'll have a physical server on site. We do not have to purchase that server. It was one of my requests is what equipment we would need to purchase. There's no equipment needs at this point. They will also be backing everything up in the cloud. And so if we were to separate from them, then they would essentially provide us access to that. You know, they would do a smooth transition with a new IT provider. That would allow them to have it, you know, to migrate the cloud. And that is what's going to happen with our current IT provider as well.
Okay, I promise only two more questions. They do the Security Operations Center response, their SOC, they have that defined. Is that their own operation, or is that something that they have a third party that they
That's
contract
third
with?
party, and we have not selected that option. We do not need 24/7 real human beings watching activity. I don't think that we're in a position like that at this point, maybe in 2 years
Okay,
with a different, you know, in the world of AI, but no.
that question doesn't matter then if we're not using that service. And then last, their limit of liability is up to 1 year of what we pay. So essentially, if they do something that causes a loss or an issue, they're limited to only $40,000 of mitigation or response. Is that something that you're comfortable with?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that. My understanding is we have a robust insurance policy that I believe would handle most situations. I don't anticipate, so I think it would be more like a lawsuit that is less about loss of funds. If it was like a cyber attack, and it would be more about staff time handling an issue, and I wouldn't think that we would need more than $40,000.
Well, the other thing that I worry about is think about all of the people whose data we have, and if there's a loss, that's the responsibility of this vendor, then we would be responsible for all of the mitigation, what's required these days. If there's a loss of people's sensitive information, so.
You mean a breach of privacy?
Breach, yeah,
Okay, because I was about to say, we have our server, they'll have their backup server, and we'll have the cloud. So in terms of losing the data, I don't think that's possible. I think we have a redundancy.
It's less
in terms
us
of
losing
breach.
it, it's more somebody else finding it is the issue.
Yes. Now, I understand especially anyone, whether it's in healthcare or social services, we hold very sensitive data in those situations. We did talk about encryption in the cloud, and I was satisfied with their answers around encryption and digital security.
Will they be holding client data in the cloud?
Yes, there will be client data in the cloud.
Okay.
there is currently client data in the cloud, and it is not as secure as I would want it to be. And part of this move is to move it into a situation that is encrypted and much more confidential. So I consider this to be a big upgrade.
All right, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Yep.
Grace?
And then just quick clarifying, this is $3,250 a month because there's no onboarding, so $39 a year. Okay. And in the motion, you want us to change, because this contract is currently for 1 year, so the one to approve would be for 2 years?
No, it's, the contract before you, I believe, is 3 years, unless I am mistaken, and it will be a 3-year contract with no uptime. Excuse me, a 2-year contract with no initial setup fee.
I do see under 2.1 term that's for 1 year unless terminated.
Are you looking at professional services agreement?
Yes.
Okay, the professional services agreement is not the,
Oh, okay.
let me see, managed services.
I think it's just getting at what we need to do in the motion to.
Yeah, if you could
reflect that.
make in the motion, whether it's 1 or 3, if you could just make the motion that you approve this for a 2-year contract, that would be appreciated.
Which I'm happy to do unless there's other questions. I'd move for,
hold on.
sorry, go ahead.
We got one more. Mary Alice.
Sorry. So I'm wondering, because I don't know, 3,000 sounds like a lot every month, but I know that there's a cost to providing IT. That's just the way it is. So my question is this: you said that there were 8 applicants who applied, and they probably all didn't have exactly the same thing that they were going to do. But what was the range of cost that you were seeing with some of the others?
So I would say for IT services, almost every IT provider has levels of service. So you can have, it's mostly done in-house, and we just come in to do basic maintenance, which is what we have now. There's a second tier, which I would anticipate we may be able to go to in 2 years, which is why I asked for a 2-year contract, which is kind of a mixture of in-house and support. There's a third tier, which is what we are asking for because we have a lot of deferred IT projects. And then there's a fourth tier, which is Cadillac. And I would say that the IT services we looked at are pretty standard across those 4 tiers. The question is more whether we go with a second tier or third tier. The second tier is not sufficient for us at this time because, you know, I came into an office with typewriters and written case notes in files. And so had to very rapid, and like no website, and had to very rapidly scale up. And then we had a pandemic, and then we had a dramatic increase in homeless residents. So as an IT professional, there are many pieces of deferred maintenance for township to be able to work much more efficiently. So I need that third level, but I think I only need it for two years if we stay at the same staffing level or below. If our staff continues to grow, I think it would be reasonable. But I will tell you, one, we have sufficient money in the budget. In fact, we will be under budget on our IT line this year. And two, I think we'll be able to really take on some of the big rocks that have been holding us up. We have a lot of duplicate entry. We do have secure data, but I would like a layer of security and encryption that's greater. I would like us to migrate from Google to Microsoft Word. I'd like an IT software. I'd like to bring in new case management software. I want an accounting workflow that matches specific receipts to specific grants, and we can see by client how much money we've spent, and by grant. All of that is done by hand now. So the amount of labor used to do that will be greatly reduced. And so I will save I could either add a third administrator next year, or I could add IT. And so the overall net sum of like the net cost is going to be less based on my projections with this investment. But you are correct to say, 25 people supported by $3,200 a month or something similar is it is it's a significant investment, 31, it'll be actually $31.25 a month.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I would move for approval, resolution number T-2026-02-005R, resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a service agreement with Movidia for IT services and consulting for 2-year amended contract.
Second.
Motion made by Grace, seconded by James. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Evans,
Yes.
Trustee Hersey,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
Yes.
Trustee Wilkin,
Yes.
Trustee Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you, and that passes.
Chair, could I ask, just point of process, because we're at 7:35, the resolution under D is very simple and straightforward, and I wonder if I could ask for it to be moved, or for me to present on the situation, and if the board feels it needs a closed session, we could go into a closed session, and if you don't feel that you need that, we could vote on it.
It's perfect.
Okay, I'm just trying to save some time.
All right. Can the supervisor just go directly into that, Chair?
Yeah, we can just go into the resolution, because we can go into a closed session at any time on an agenda.
Resolution number T 2026-006R, resolution authorizing the filing a claim in the Court of the Claims regarding the grant reduction of contract FCASH 08558. Supervisor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a very simple situation that does require us to file a claim in the courts. Essentially, we have a tax write-in grant from fiscal year 25, which is for supplies and renovations for shelter. It's a $25,000 grant. It's an add-on to our emergency transitional housing grant. We have the same grant in this year currently, right? So it is a place where I understand if folks check a box to support homeless services, when they pay their taxes, it goes into a pool and it's divided amongst the ETH recipients. We applied for it, we got it, we spent it, we submitted the reports on time. They were accurate, we had receipts. Something happened at the level of the state where they did not submit our documentation for reimbursement in a timely fashion. They have apologized for that. It has not happened before with any of our other grants. They have told us verbally that if we go to the Court of Claims, they will not be contesting it, and we will receive our money. So we did try to address it administratively. That's what our attorney had suggested. We work very closely with IDHS. It's been a very easy process. It just is simply that, as they explained, you can't do that past a certain date in the fiscal year. So all we're doing is asking for your support to file a claim with the Court of Claims to receive those dollars due to us. They agree they're due to us. We agree they're due to us. They apologize. It is unusual. We haven't had this problem before. I would like just to move forward with the resolution. Because it is pending litigation, I wanted to give you a closed session, but I really don't see it as, this is all things I feel like I can state. It was a mistake, and they've taken responsibility. We just have this process.
Thank you, Supervisor. Questions, thoughts? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Grace.
I was gonna say, I think that makes sense. I appreciate you clarifying, and it sounds like it won't be back and forth, so we don't expect that this would be a big cost in filing the claim. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would do a motion. Move for approval, resolution number T-2026-006R, a resolution authorizing the filing a claim in the Court of Claims regarding the grant reduction of contract FCASH 08558.
I'll second.
Motion made by Grace, seconded by Mary Alice. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Evans,
Yes.
Trustee Hersey,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
Yes.
Trustee Wilkin,
Yes.
Trustee Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that passes.
Do we need to vote no for the closed session, or is that just done?
No, we would only vote if we had made a motion to go into closed session, but there was no motion on the floor, so we just ignore it.
All right. With no further business before this body, this meeting is adjourned. We will allow for a 5-minute recess just so that folks can come downstairs, get seated, and all that good stuff.
Thank
Crowd,
you.
you're more than
Have a
welcome
good
to stay
night.
for city council. Thank you all.